Hello there, and welcome. As parents, we're always trying to do what's best for our kids, to help them succeed. But what if one of the biggest keys to their success in school isn't what we think it is? Today, we're going to talk about a really powerful but often overlooked connection, the link between what our kids are eating and how their brains are actually working. We're talking about focus, memory, the ability to learn, the whole shebang. This is such a crucial topic, so let's get right into it.
So let me just ask you this straight up. Does this sound at all familiar? Your child is having a really tough time staying focused in class. Maybe doing homework is a constant battle, or they just seem to drift off, they're easily distracted. It's a huge frustration for so many of us parents, right? And our first instinct is usually to think, okay, maybe they need a tutor, or maybe there's an issue in the classroom.
But what if the real answer isn't in the classroom at all? What if it's actually found in the kitchen? I know it might sound a little surprising, but the key to unlocking their focus, to really boosting their memory, might just be sitting on their dinner plate. Today, we're going to dig into some really compelling science that shows just how deeply a child's diet affects the way they think and learn.
All right, so first up, let's get into the science of it. We hear the word obesity, our minds usually go straight to physical health. We think about things like the heart or stress on the joints, but what the latest research is telling us is, well, it's pretty mind-blowing. The impact goes way deeper than that. It goes right into the brain itself, especially a child's developing brain, and it can really interfere with their ability to learn.
And look, this isn't some small, isolated problem we're talking about. We're looking at a rising trend all across the globe. Childhood obesity is on the rise, and that makes this conversation more urgent than it has ever been. This is a really big deal because we're not just talking about kids' physical health anymore. We're actually talking about the brain health, the learning potential of an entire generation.
So you're probably wondering, okay, how exactly does this happen? What's going on in the brain? Well, the research zeroes in on three really big areas. First up, memory function. A diet that's packed with processed foods is kind of like trying to run a high-performance engine on dirty fuel. The brain cells just can't get that steady stream of energy they need, and that makes it way harder to form new memories and pull up old ones. Then there's the attention span, the part of the brain in charge of focus. It's called the prefrontal cortex. It can actually become inflamed from too much sugar and unhealthy fats. When that happens, trying to concentrate is, well, it's almost impossible. And finally, and this one's huge, is emotional control. This is tied to the stress hormone, cortisol. When cortisol levels are high, which they often are with obesity, kids can become more irritable and more easily frustrated. And trying to manage their emotions in a classroom, well, that becomes a real challenge.
Okay, I know that all sounds pretty intense, so let's peel back the curtain and look at what's actually going on inside the body, on a biological level. Now, don't worry, we're not going to get lost in a bunch of scientific jargon. When you break it down step by step, it actually makes a ton of sense how a poor diet can literally put the brain on overload.
It really is like a chain reaction, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So it all kicks off with step one, a poor diet, lots of junk food, and way too much snacking all day long. That leads directly to step two, these wild blood sugar spikes followed by these awful crashes. You know that feeling, right? That rush of energy and then the big slump? The body is just working overtime trying to deal with it all. And over time, all that stress leads to step three, this constant low-level inflammation, not just in the body, but in the brain. And where does that chain reaction end up? Well, that's step four, a very real drop in the brain's ability to function. Things like memory and attention really start to suffer.
I love this analogy because it makes it so clear. Just think about it. Imagine the fire alarm in your house was just stuck on, blaring 24/7. Would you be able to think straight or get any work done or even just relax? No way. It would be maddening. Well, that is exactly what chronic inflammation is like for the brain. It's this constant state of emergency, this alarm bell ringing nonstop, and it just totally disrupts the normal chatter between brain cells. Learning, thinking clearly, it becomes almost impossible.
Okay, so here's another really important piece of this puzzle. It's a term you might have heard before, insulin resistance. The easiest way to think about it is like this. Insulin is the key that opens the door to your cells to let in energy, or glucose. And glucose is basically brain fuel. But with insulin resistance, it's like that key gets old and rusty. It doesn't fit in the lock anymore. So even though there's plenty of fuel, plenty of sugar floating around in the blood, it can't get inside the brain cells. And for the brain, that's a total catastrophe. It's literally starving for energy, and that's what leads to that feeling we all call brain fog, where you feel slow, forgetful, and just can't think clearly.
So, we've talked about what's happening directly inside the brain, but the effects of a poor diet don't just stop there. It's like dropping a rock into a pond. The ripples spread out and affect everything. A child's diet touches so many other parts of their life that are absolutely crucial for learning. So let's take a look at the bigger picture here.
And this is where you really start to see how it's all connected. First off, sleep. Obesity can dramatically increase the risk of things like sleep apnea, which just wrecks a good night's sleep. And if a child isn't sleeping well, their brain can't do its nightly cleanup. It can't file away memories or get ready for the next day. So focus, forget about it. Then there's physical activity. It's kind of a vicious cycle, right? Kids who are overweight often feel less energized to move around. But exercise is so important for getting good blood flow and oxygen to the brain. And third, you've got hormones. A poor diet can throw everything out of whack, not just stress hormones, but the ones that manage growth, appetite, and even motivation.
Okay, I know that was a lot. We've laid out the problem, and honestly, it can sound pretty daunting. But here's the most important part of this whole conversation, the really good news. This is not a life sentence. The brain, especially a child's brain, is incredibly adaptable. And you as a family have the power to change things. There are simple steps you can take that have huge results. So let's stop talking about the problem and start talking about the solutions.
All right, tip number 1, and this is the big one, is all about diet. And please don't think you have to become a gourmet chef overnight. This is about simple, smart choices. The absolute best place to start? Breakfast. A good breakfast is like setting the thermostat for your child's energy for the whole day. It stabilizes their blood sugar and helps them avoid that dreaded mid-morning crash. Then just focus on bringing in more whole foods. You know, the stuff that doesn't come in a crinkly bag. Fruits, veggies, good proteins. And just as important is what you limit. Try to cut back on the sugary drinks and processed junk, and also try to reduce that constant grazing, that non-stop snacking, which just keeps that blood sugar roller coaster going.
And what about exercise? You might be thinking you need to sign your kid up for a marathon, but check this out. The science says that just 20 to 30 minutes of light activity a day, that's it. A walk around the block, a little time at the park, that's enough to get more blood flowing to the brain. It's such a tiny investment of time for a massive payoff when it comes to focus. Okay, next up, sleep. Honestly, sleep is like the brain's magic reset button. If you want to do one thing to boost your child's school performance, this is it. Get them on a consistent sleep schedule. A fixed bedtime, yep, even on the weekends, it works wonders for their internal body clock. And here's a huge one. Create a calm, screen-free hour before bed. No phones, no tablets, maybe read a book together. This tells the brain, hey, it's time to power down. Because that sleep time is when all the learning from the day gets sorted and stored away. It's simple. Better sleep literally means a better memory.
All right, now I want to introduce a concept that kind of ties everything we've talked about together. The food, the hormones, the brain health. It's an idea that's getting a ton of buzz right now because it's so effective at hitting the reset button on the body's natural systems. It's not about a specific diet, it's all about finding a rhythm.
Okay, the technical term for this is intermittent fasting. But wait, before you get worried, let me be crystal clear. When we're talking about kids, this has nothing to do with starving them or skipping meals. Absolutely not. All it really means is creating a schedule, a rhythm for eating. So instead of grazing and snacking from the moment they wake up until they go to bed, it's about having defined times for eating and defined times for letting their body just rest. It's a simple shift from focusing only on what they eat to also thinking about when they eat.
This chart just lays it out so perfectly. Look at the two sides. On one hand, you've got constant snacking. That's that blood sugar roller coaster we talked about, right? The body is always working, always digesting, and hormones are all over the place. But then look at the other side. An eating rhythm. What do you get? Stable energy, better focus. You're actually giving the body a break, giving it time to do important things like cell repair. We'll call it cell cleaning, and it lets those hormones get back into balance. So here's the magic of giving the body that break from food. It can finally switch gears and do other important jobs. It kicks off this amazing process called autophagy. Now that's a fancy word, but just think of it as the brain's janitorial crew. It comes in and cleans out all the old, damaged junk so everything can run better. And eating rhythm also, of course, stabilizes blood sugar, which is the key to focus, and it helps get those hormones that control mood and motivation back on track. I'm going to say it one more time just because it is so important. The goal here is not about fasting in the way we usually think of it. It's not about restriction. It is about creating a healthy rhythm for life. It's about getting away from the chaos of constant eating and giving your child's body and brain a predictable, consistent schedule. That structure is what lets their whole system work the way it was designed to, at its absolute best.
All right, as we start to wrap this up, let's just boil it all down to the key things to remember. Number one, A child's diet is directly wired to their brain's ability to learn. It's not a small thing, it's a huge thing. Number 2, you don't have to change everything overnight. Simple tweaks to food, a little more movement, and better sleep can make a world of difference. Number 3, that idea of creating an eating rhythm, it can be a powerful way to hit the reset button on the brain. And finally, and maybe most importantly, this is all about small, consistent steps. That's how you build a foundation for a really bright future for your kid.
So I want to leave you with one final thought. A question, really. After hearing all this, what's one small thing, one healthy habit that your family could start doing together starting tomorrow? Seriously, just one. Maybe it's that 20-minute walk after dinner. Or maybe everyone agrees to swap sugary sodas for water. Or maybe it's making that last hour before bed a screen-free zone for the whole family. The real power here isn't in doing something huge and dramatic. It's in starting small and doing it together. Thanks so much for your time today.